Goblin launch detected.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further, as you can use the promo code MTGMUDSTA to get you 5% off anything on the site. Or if you're in Canada like me, you can use the same promo code at Multizone to get 10% off your orders of singles. If cards aren't what you're looking for, Original Magic Art has playmats, tokens, and sweet art that you can use that same promo code to help you get 5% off your order there. If you're looking to bling out your cards, using Alter Sleeves is a great way to do so, and you can click the affiliate link in my About section to help out the channel as you make an order. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game finds us back at Kessel Run Games in Ottawa, and I'm playing Kolvori, God of Kinship, keeping 3 forests, Slurk All Ingesting, Harmonize, Blighted Woodland, and Zhang Yu, Wildcrafter. Eric is playing Lynde, Cheerful Tormentor, keeping Dragonskull Summit, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Curse of Opulence, Curse of Vengeance, Curse of Verbosity, and Sphinx of the Second Sun. Shantive is playing Omnath, Locus of Creation, keeping a Hollowed Fountain, an Island, Exotic Orchard, Steam Vents, Forest, Rada, Heart of Keld, and Imperial Recruiter. Raph is playing Haldan Pako, and he keeps a Precognition Field, Mana Geode, Summer Bloom, Rapid Vigor, Island, Terramorphic Expanse, and Ash Barrens. I win the die roll and start us off. I play a forest and pass. Eric plays an island into a Soul Ring, and taps a Soul Ring into an Arcane Signet. To top it off, he casts a Curse of Opulence on Shantive and passes. Shantive draws and plays a Hollowed Fountain tapped, passing to Raph. Raph draws and plays a Terramorphic Expanse, sacrificing it to go and find a forest while passing. I draw and play a forest and pass. Eric draws and plays a Dragonskull Summit. He then casts a Curse of Verbosity onto Shantive. And he then casts a Curse of Vengeance on Raph and passes turn. Shantive draws and plays a Steam Vents tapped before passing. Raph draws and plays an island and ships the turn. I draw and cast Zhang Yu, Wildcrafter, passing turn. Eric draws and then casts a Talisman of Creativity and casts Lynde, Cheerful Tormentor. Raph basic land cycles an Ash Barrens for another island while this is happening, and Eric then passes turn. Shantive draws and plays an Exotic Orchard before casting an Imperial Recruiter. The Recruiter grabs a Lotus Cobra, and with nothing else, he passes to Raph. Raph plays an island and casts a Mana Geode into a Codex Shredder and passes to me. I play a forest and cast Renata, Called to the Hunt. I then downtick my Planeswalker to give her a +1/+1 counter and pass turn. Eric draws and swings Lynde at Shantive for 2. He gets a gold token and a draw of the curses before playing a swamp and then a propaganda in the second main phase. He follows up with Curse of Chaos on Shantive and with nothing else, passes turn. Shantive draws and plays a Plains before casting Omnath, Locus of Creation. It enters, drawing him a card, and he then has to discard down to hand size, pitching a Fertilid. Raph plays a Mountain and casts Pako, Arcane Retriever. He then swings Pako at Shantive. With Pako attacking, he exiles each of our top cards, exiling a Circuitous Root from both Shantive and my libraries, and a Curse of Shallows from Eric. This has Pako getting 4 +1/+1 counters, and the Curse trigger, giving them both a gold and letting them both rummage, which has Raph discarding a Dacra Mystic 2. Shantive then chumps Pako with the Recruiter, and with nothing else, Raph passes. I just play a Blighted Woodlands and pass. Eric draws and plays a Swamp and goes to combat. He swings Lynde at Shantive, drawing a card, making a gold token, and choosing not to rummage. Shantive chooses not to block and takes the hit for 2. In his second main phase, Eric casts Curse of Misfortunes on Raph and passes. Shantive draws and plays that Lotus Cobra that he tutored for, and then plays a land for turn, and also gains 4 life from Omnath. He then casts Rada, Heart of Keld, and passes to Raph. Raph draws and moves to combat, paying 2 to swing at Eric. Pako triggers, exiling Trespasser's Curse, Stomping Grounds, Gruul Turf, and a Forest, and giving him 4 +1/+1 counters. With no blocks, Eric takes 11. Raph then casts Haldan in his second main phase, and plays a command tower off of Pako's exiled cards. He uses the tower and a gold to cast Summer's Bloom, playing a Gruul Turf, a Forest, and an island that he'd bounced with Gruul Turf. At the end of turn, I crack my Blighted Woodlands, going to find 2 more forests before starting my turn. I draw and play a Scavenger Grounds, and then cast a Growing Rites of Itlamok. With it entering, I reveal Varys, Silver Moon Ranger. I then cast my commander, Kolvori, God of Kinship, and pass to Eric. Eric's Curse of Misfortune triggers on his upkeep, and in response, Raph casts Reality Shift on Lynde. This has Eric manifesting the top card of his library, and then tutors for a Curse of Surveillance to put on Raph, and then draws for turn. He plays a mountain, and casts Sphinx of the Second Sun before casting a Windfall. He then moves to his second beginning phase, untapping and tutoring a Cruel Reality onto Raph and drawing another card. In his second main phase, he casts a Grim Guardian, making all opponents lose 1 life, and then recasts Lynde, passing turn. Shantiv draws and plays a Crucible of Worlds. He moves to combat, swinging Rata at Eric and paying the 2 for Propaganda. Eric blocks with his Manifest, which is revealed to be a Curse of Echoes. We make a slight mistake though, since we think the curse should come back, but it's a creature when it dies, so it shouldn't. Shantiv then plays a Verdant Catacombs from his graveyard, gaining 4 life from Omnath, but losing 1 as he cracks it. He grabs a Breeding Pool, and gets 4 mana off of Omnath's second trigger, and 2 mana off of the Lotus Cobra. We then see him casting Uro, drawing a card, and gaining 3 life, and putting a mountain into play. This triggers Omnath's third ability, dealing 4 to each opponent, and Planeswalker they control. With nothing to do with his mana though, Shantiv then passes. Raph goes to his upkeep, sacrificing Haldan to Cruel Reality. And all of his opponents then draw 4 off the Curse of Surveillance. He then plays a Seat of the Synod and a Springbloom Druid, sacrificing the seat to go and grab a forest and a mountain into play tapped. Moving to combat, Raph swings Pako at me, and we exile Toski, Reliquary Tower, Explosive Vegetation, and an island, giving Pako 3 more +1/+1 counters. I then chump with Renata to avoid taking 15, and in his second main phase, Raph casts a Trinket Mage to go and grab Lantern of Insight, which he plays to make everyone reveal their top cards of their library, and with nothing else, he passes turn. I draw, and play a Temple of the False God, and then cast Garruk Wildspeaker, upticking him to untap the temple and a forest that I used to cast. I then cast Multani Yavamaya's Avatar, and Raph responds by making Eric mill his curses of leeches with Codex Shredder. With nothing else, I pass to Eric. Eric moves to his upkeep, and Lynde triggers as we believe that the Curse of Echoes will return to the battlefield despite being a manifest. The curse gets attached to Raph, and Eric draws 2 from Lynde before resolving Curse of Misfortunes. This has him grabbing a Curse of Death's Hold and puts it onto Raph, and also drains the table for 1 from the Eidolon. Eric then draws a mountain for turn, and plays a Foreboding Ruins, revealing a swamp, and then casts a Strionic Resonator. He then plays out a Turgid, God of Fright, and then a Curse of Inertia on Shantiv. Moving to combat, Eric swings the Sphinx at Shantiv for 6, getting a gold token, and gets a draw trigger. Raph responds to this by cracking the Lantern of Insight to shuffle away Eric's Lightning Greaves. Eric then continues, and does his Rummage, discarding a Temple of Epiphany, and draws a Paradox Haze. Shantiv then takes 6, and Eric moves to his second beginning phase, untapping and drawing. Eric then casts a Paradox Haze on himself, which as it comes in drains the table for 1, and he finishes with a Lithoform Engine, passing to Shantiv. Shantiv draws, and casts Feldar Retreat, and then plays a command tower. He gains 4 life, and chooses to put a +1/+1 counter onto all of his creatures, and with nothing else, passes to Wrath. Wrath goes to his upkeep, sacrificing the Trinket Mage to Cruel Reality, which Eric gets from Turgrid, and allows him to go and tutor for a Claws of Gix. The Curse of Surveillance then draws Eric and I 6 cards each, before Wrath draws for turn. He then cracks the Codex Shredder to return Rogue's Passage to hand, which he plays for turn. He moves to combat, and swings Pako at Eric. Pako flips the top off of everyone's deck, getting 2 more +1/+1 counters, and before moving to damage, Eric casts Deadly Rollick on it. Wrath responds, casting a Brainstorm to try and save it, and everyone copies it because of Curse of Echoes. Unfortunately, no one can find a response though, and Pako gets exiled. Before Wrath passes turn, I activate Kolvori, but whiff. I draw and play a Nykthos, activating it for 6 green before untapping it and the Temple of the False God with Garruk. I then cast Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrig, and Garruk's Uprising with the remaining mana I have. I then activate Nykthos once more for 9, and cast a Champion's Helm, and then a Hero's Podium, and a Greater Good. I move to combat and swing Kolvori and Multani at Eric for 11 and 12 respectively, and he responds by casting Reality Shift and copying it with the Lithoform engine to target Multani and Yorvo. At this point I'm trying to save Multani, but I forget that Turgrid's out, as I sacrifice the Legendary to Greater Good, drawing 12 and discarding 3, and then Yorvo to draw 5 and discard another 3. This has Eric gaining both creatures thanks to Turgrid, and blocks Kolvari with the recently acquired Multani. Eric also unfortunately gets everything I discard to Greater Good, which for the most part this deck is permanent, and includes Guardian Project, Nissa Vastwood Seer, Yeva Nature's Herald, Yisan the Wandering Bard, and Abundance. With the Guardian Project seeing all those creatures come in, he chooses non-land for 3, revealing God Eternal Bontu, Bitterheart Witch, and Torment of Scarabs, putting them into hand. Eric goes to his turn and has 2 upkeeps, with the Curse of Misfortune grabbing Curse of Bloodletting and Curse of Thirst, putting both onto Wrath and draining the table for 2. Eric chooses non-land for his draw for turn, and reveals a Nightscape Familiar, before playing a Haunted Ridge as his land for turn, and then casting Nightscape Familiar. The Guardian Project gets him a Curse of Bloody Tome, as he picks non-land from the Abundance, and he then equips my Lightning Greaves to Turgrid, and my Swiftfoot Boots to the Sphinx. He then casts Talisman of Indulgence, Claws of Gix, and starts the Curse of Shantiv with a Curse of Bloody Tome and Torment of Scarabs, draining the table for 2 again. Eric then casts a Disrupt Decorum, and a Bitterheart Witch, which he sacrifices to Claws of Gix to gain a little life, and tutor for a Curse of Fool's Wisdom, which he puts onto Shantiv, draining the table again for 1. Before moving to combat, Eric makes Shantiv mill 1 with the Codex Shredder, and swings the Sphinx at him. The curses trigger, making Eric a gold, drawing him Deflecting Swat, and then rummaging into Baleful Strix. And Curse of Inertia untaps the Sphinx as well. Eric is also swinging the 18/18 Multani at me, and neither Shantiv nor I block, taking the hits. Eric then goes to his second beginning phase, and he casts a Baleful Strix, and Shantiv decides to respond by casting Once Upon a Time, grabbing a Mina and Den. He then casts an Accursed Witch and sacrifices it to the Claws of Gix to put an Infectious Curse on Shantiv, and drains the table for 1. He then casts the Curse of Shaken Faith on Shantiv as well, dealing another 1 to the table, and then discards down to hand size. Shantiv goes to his upkeep and gets drained for 1 by Eric's Infectious Curse, and discards a Rogrim Triome to the Torment of Scarabs, which Eric gets back because of Turgrid, and Shantiv then has to mill 2. Shantiv then draws, and gets drained for 2 off the Curse of Fool's Wisdom. Eric also makes him mill 1 from the Codex Shredder, and he then casts a Burgeoning and Mina and Den, which has the Curse of Shaken Faith dealing 2 to him. Shantiv then plays a Scalding Tarn off the top, gaining 4 life, and giving his team a +1/+1 counter and Vigilance, and moves to combat. Since everything is goated, he swings the team at my Garruk, and I don't block, and Garruk dies. With nothing else, he passes to Wrath. Wrath goes to his upkeep, and loses 5 off of Cruel Reality, and then takes 9, which is doubled to 18 because of the Curse of Thirst and Curse of Bloodletting. Eric then has Shantiv drawing 8, which drains Shantiv for 16, and at this point we're all so beaten up because of the curses, and we're pretty sure we can't win, we scoop it up to Eric. Game review time. So sacrificing Multani and Yarvo in hindsight was definitely a mistake. I probably should have just let them get exiled. I think even if Eric hadn't had Turgid out, he probably still was going to win very handedly since he was getting out of control with those curses. It was a lot of fun to see in action, and I'm really glad he was able to sleeve up the deck and have it perform in such a nice way. Shantiv unfortunately seemed to be lacking some of his extra land plays, and I feel like with this version of Omnath, you really want to have them as early as possible to be able to get that extra mana and that damage train going. As always, Pako is an incredible beater, and the turn that he comes out, the fact that he can swing with haste, is incredible. As you saw, he got big really fast even when he missed some of the hits. There's no reason not to run Haldan and play Timur, but I could definitely see Pako being strong enough on his own and never having to cast the other commander at all. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.